Welcome to everyone joining us live and by recorded video to this month's Let's Talk Solutions, focusing on efficiencies. A couple of housekeeping items. We'll be recording today's presentation, and you'll be able to find this and previous recordings in NPAC's knowledge base. Also, if you have questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We have team members monitoring your questions, and we'll make time at the end to discuss some of them. With that, let me introduce Jeff Armstrong, our Chief Innovation Officer, and Brandon Cure, our Director of Product, who will both be presenting today. Let's start with Jeff, so take it away. Oh, wait, I'll go ahead and do the agenda. Sorry, Jeff.
Sounds good.
So today on the agenda, Jeff is going to be presenting the features and functions of the batch menu to help drive those efficiencies and using correspondence during batch processing. And then Brandon's going to present to us some new product enhancements that will help improve your efficiency. And then, of course, we'll have time for Q&A. Now, Jeff, you can take it away.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. Good morning or good afternoon, folks. Hope everyone's doing well. I've started sharing my screen. Amy, can you see my screen here?
I can.
All right, very good, thank you. So yep, as Amy said, we're going to be talking about efficiencies today in the Foundation Cloud grant solution. We will talk about the batch screen and about correspondence within batch, but we also want to talk a bit about some of these efficiencies in our landing pages. So when we designed GE Classic, there were a lot of wizards that we built in for batch processing, and those were functional, those were okay. But whenever we designed Foundation Cloud grants, we were very intentional about not building wizards. And instead building functionality into the landing pages as often as possible. For one thing, they're a lot easier to use, they're more intuitive, it's not another screen you have to go to, less prone to errors, plus they're easier for us to build as well. So let's start out by looking at online grant requests. You know, one of the main efficiencies that you can take advantage of is as it relates to grant records that are coming into Foundation Cloud grants from the community portal, right? These can be grant requests from fund holders. These can be web applications, proposal web applications, scholarship web applications from your applicants in the portal. And we'll take a look at some great ways to process those records as they come in bulk. So starting here with online grant requests, here in our sandbox, I've just got a few grant records, grant requests that have come in from fund holders. And there's a checkbox next to each one. And as I check these, we've got some options for bulk processing down here. We don't have to go to a wizard. We don't have to open each record individually to do these processes. We can do them in bulk. So I could select all just by checking this. If I wanted to work with all 6 of these, I could select just the ones I wanted to work with. But lots of different processing options down here. So create grants, relatively self-explanatory. From these grant requests, if we've decided, yes, let's go ahead and create grant records for these so that we can batch them for check runs, etc., then we can just very easily click this button and create 4 grant records if we wanted to. We could decline from here as well. If there were a couple that we wanted to not make for whatever reason, we could decline those. And rather than pulling up the individual grant records, you can do them all in batch from here. One of the functions you can do on these grant requests is to set them to reviewed. And that just flags them as being, you know, someone has taken a look at them and they're ready for grant processing. Another feature here that I do want to talk about is changing the hold status. And this may not be something that your organization is using, but there are hold statuses you can configure in the settings. If we go over to settings and let's see, it's going to be under system, and the business rules screen on the grants tab lets you set these custom hold statuses. So maybe you've got, you know, a bunch of grant requests that have come in here and you want to put some of them on hold for some reason. Maybe you can see that there's no recipient name or that the recipient ID didn't get set properly for some of these grants that have come in, or maybe, you know, anything that's over a certain amount needs to be manually reviewed. You could take just these 4 and I could put them on hold for one of the hold status reasons that I've got configured. And again, you can set these up yourselves. But if I want to say that these, I'm not going to create grant records for because they need further review, but the rest of them I'm going to go ahead and process today. I can just say, okay. And it just changes the hold status for each of these grant records. And so now these are on hold. You can see the hold status column here. And if I were to try to process one of these to become a grant, it's not going to give me the option here. As I select these, this one is going to be eligible to be a grant. But because it's not on hold, but these can't be processed because they're still on hold. And if I want to clear the hold status, it's really straightforward. I just select them all. I say clear hold status. Are you sure you want to clear these? I can say yes. And it cleared those 4, and it told me that these 2 weren't on hold, so it skipped them. So really straightforward process for putting grant requests on hold and not processing them, and then processing all the rest of them. This may be something that you want to do every day, every other day, as part of your business workflow, to come in and put some of them on hold for further review, and to go ahead and create your grant records immediately. So pretty straightforward process here. We'll create a couple of grants. It's going to prompt us for the same things that we would get prompted for on the individual grant request screen. I have to choose the request type. These are donor advised because they came in from the portal. I was contacted via the web, and I could go change these in the configuration if I needed to have different contact methods. When I'm creating these grant records, I can either use today's date by default. I could change that date and make them as of Thursday if I wanted to, if that's my check run day. Or some of you have the option in the portal. Some of you have the option turned on where your fund holders can request a pay date. Maybe they have sent in a grant request that they want to pay next week, and you want to use that date on the grant that gets created. So you could override the setting just by checking this box. And so that's really up to the foundation how you guys want to use this. But it'll tell you it's going to process 2 grant requests. Do you want to proceed? You say yes. And then it's going to create these 2 grant records. It gave us a step complete little notification here, and it told us that these were done. And you'll notice these have now disappeared from the queue, and that's because we defaulted with this filter here. This says the status equals submitted. We changed the status of it to processed whenever we created that grant request, and so it took it out of this queue. So we default to this filter because it sort of makes it like a daily working queue. So every day you can come in and see which grant requests have been submitted that you haven't yet taken action on. And you can take those actions from here. If you've got a lot of grant requests to process and you want to filter that list, it's pretty straightforward to filter. You can just come in here and say, I want to see just the ones that have a status of submitted. That one's already in there. Or I could say, just the ones that have an amount over the total amount greater than $1,000. And then when I apply that filter, you notice it's going to have an additional filter item come up here and say the total amount's greater than 1,000. And so now I've only got 3 here for processing. So a lot of processing power here around online grant requests. We've just created some grant records and we can go batch those up. I'm going to go ahead and now jump into the web app landing pages. So we've got the submitted proposal applications and submitted scholarship applications. These have come in from the community portal for your applicants. The landing page functionality on each of these is virtually the same. So I'm just going to focus on proposal today, but pretty much everything that we're going to talk through here on proposals is going to be available for you in the scholarship landing page as well. So these are proposal web applications that have been submitted. You'll notice they're from all kinds of different web applications. And so maybe I just want to look at the ones that are for this Dallas County classroom grant. So I'll select this and copy it. And then again, I'll go filter and just say, I just want to look at the incoming web applications where the web app equals Dallas County classroom grant. And when I apply that, I just get the ones for the Dallas County classroom grant. And the status is not equal created. That means they've hit the submit button. It can either be submitted, it could be processed. Maybe it's committed if it's a web application that allows that. But for all these applications, where's my ID column? All the way at the beginning. I wanted that over here. I've logged in with a different user account, so it sort of reset these to the default for me. So I can, from here, I can select some web applications for processing and now look at these options that I've got down here for bulk processing. I can create or update proposal records. This would be useful if you've got a web application that you want to go ahead and accept for analysis. You may not make the award. This isn't about making the award. This is about accepting the application and adding it to the proposal module or adding it to the scholarship application module. You could decline these applications. These 2 are available to be declined because they've been submitted. This one's been processed, and so I've already created a proposal record for it, so it can't decline from here. I could go into the proposal record and do processing there, and in that workflow, choose not to grant it. But the decline function is specific to a web application and not specific to a proposal record. So I could decline a couple of these. These newer ones here, you can tell by ID, these are brand new. I could set them to reviewed, meaning that I've taken a look at them and we're ready to process them at some point. This is going to be useful if you want to put all of your web apps, your proposal web apps, into a single proposal batch as you're processing them. We'll get to that in a second. When we actually create them, you'll have the option to create a proposal batch as you process them. If this is a multi-stage application, if you have, you're asking just a couple of pages of preliminary questions, you're going to weed out the ones that that you don't want to invite back to be finalists. And then you're ready to promote some of them to finalists. You can promote them from your prelim stage to your main stage from here. These aren't available because these are all single stage applications. That's why it says 0. I could expire these applications. If it was a cyclical application and the deadline had passed, I could go ahead and mark them as expired if they never got submitted, which wouldn't be relevant here because these are all where the status is created, not created. I don't want to go do that where the status was created. And then finally, I can export these applications. I want to show off this feature. This is pretty cool. So the print and export function in GE Classic was a bit different than the way it works here. And the main reason was in GE Classic, you had to have a report. You had to have an SSRS report for web applications that would be the beginning point of the export. And then all the attachments would be added to that. What we've done here instead is we have taken the HTML that was put into the web application and we've made that part of the export itself. So for these three, I'm creating PDFs. I've chosen to put page breaks in it. These are just some of the defaults. I wanted to include the attachments in the export, and I wanted the attachments bundled into the PDF. If I didn't choose this, it could have exported the attachments and just put them as individual files that get zipped up. But this has put the web applications, the HTML that was originally presented to the applicants, and exported all of this to a PDF. So you'll notice in my browser, it's downloaded this zip file. I'll go ahead and open it up. And this zip file contains 3 PDFs for the 3 different grants. You got the application IDs here. You'll notice this one says bundle and it's a much bigger file. This one has an attachment in it. Let's check this out. My Acrobat PDF reader is going to show me what this export looks like. And you'll notice this is the original HTML that the applicants were presented with online. This isn't just a raw dump of the data like it was in Classic. So much better user experience. Jump through the pages here. And then you can see here, this was one of the attachments. And so it looks like this was an attachment that was done by Foundation staff, by Impact staff here. This is not necessarily a meaningful attachment, but this document, Word document, got added to the PDF, and it's labeled at the top here. So this export function is super helpful. I'll go ahead and close that. And then one of the other things we can do here, I've saved the best for last, is this creating and updating proposals. This isn't just useful for creating new proposals, but if you, we've had a few foundations who have put an application online and then discovered after the fact, oh, we should have made this field a mapped field that reads data from the web application and puts whatever value the applicant entered into, maybe into the, to the proposal record. And so if they add that after the fact and they've already processed and created a grant, this create/update will actually just go out and find the proposal that's already out there, and it will add the values from the web application into the proposal record. So it's not just useful for processing to push through to the proposal record or to the scholarship record in that module. It's going to ask, am I sure? I say yes. And then it gives me a few options for how I want to set up these proposals. So first of all, I choose a proposal type, and these are the proposal types that are active, that are configured in Foundation Cloud Grants. I can choose a fund if I want to, and I can search the Foundation Cloud Grants. I could also search the CRM system for a fund if I wanted to. This is an optional step. You don't have to fund it at this point, but if you know that all the applications you're going to be processing here all go to the same fund, then you can do that here, and it just saves a step later on. When I create these proposals, do I want to default the characteristics from the applicant if I know about the applicant? Do I want to default the characteristics from the fund that's been chosen so that these proposals have those characteristics on them already? And I'll say yes to those options. And then finally, I can create a new proposal batch. And this is where a lot of the automation processing power here, this super efficient. It'll set up a new proposal batch for doing proposal processing, which we'll get into in just a sec. So I'm going to create update proposals. And this tells me in this log that I've created a new proposal for this web application. I've created a new proposal for this web application. And that I've created a new proposal batch, number 9, and it was saved with both these proposals in it. So lots of efficiency and processing power here in this batch screen. So next, I'm going to go ahead and go into the batch menu. As you can see here, we've got lots of different batch types. Most of you are using the check run, I'm sure, but some of these you may not be using. And there's just a lot of efficiency and a lot of processing power that we've built into these. We want to make you aware of here. So I'll start with the proposal batch. We just created proposal batch number 9 from those online proposals that were just submitted. So here's the proposal batch that we created. It's got 2 proposals in it for a total of 1,300. I can open this up and see these 2 amounts for these 2 proposals. If I wanted to, I could add more or remove some from here. But this is where I assign the proposals to the batch. The one fund that I chose, the 1004 fund, is here, and I'm going to go ahead and budget the $1,300 from those 2 grants, from those 2 proposals rather. Go ahead and budget that here. Allocation is pretty straightforward. When I choose that fund, it's going to let me start doing allocations. Well, I have to do approvals first, so let's start with workflow then. And I'll select both of these. These are using the standard proposal workflow template, so I'll start by validating them. The grant amount hasn't been set for these yet, so I've got to go in and do some processing. So let's go ahead and do a workflow task here. And so let's do the standard proposal, and this is going to be the staff review. We'll say that we completed it today, and that the outcome was that these were approved. And so this will update those. It's going to give us a message here with what happened. But if we want a more meaningful explanation, we can jump over to logs and see that we did this workflow update just now. Here's what happened. We set the approved amount and we set some complete dates. We can then go in and do some allocation and create some grants. For the sake of time, I'm just going to jump out and go to a different proposal batch that's already been processed and show you some of this one's already got a couple of grants that we created. And so for these 2 grants, we can drill through and find these grants. But here we can also copy them to a check run, copy them to a docket, copy them to a grant batch for further grant processing. So I want to come up for air here and talk a bit about these grant batch types. Check runs and dockets and grant batches. I'm sure most of you are familiar with check runs. This is the financial processing tool that we use for sending, creating invoices in the finance system, and for eventually getting around to cutting the checks in the finance system. A docket is a batch that is used for board member approval. So several of our customers have bylaws that say if a grant is over, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000, that it has to be approved by the board. And so part of the community portal that we've got in Foundation Cloud is a board member portal where you can ask the board members to log in and approve these grants. And the way that's done is in a batch called a docket. So you set up a docket that will batch all the records that need to go to those fund holders, to those board members for approval. And then they'll log into the portal and approve or decline or abstain. I got lots of options there. We don't have time to go in today to that functionality in the portal itself, but that's what you use a docket for. And then a grant batch is essentially a batch that's not used for either of these purposes, but primarily used for workflow and used for correspondence. So it's worth noting that in almost all these batch types, encumbrance batches are a bit different, but with all the other batch types, you can do batch correspondence. So from this proposal batch, if I wanted to do, if I wanted to send emails to these proposal applicants, I could say this is your proposal acceptance email. I'm not sure if these applicants have email addresses, but I guess we're about to find out. This is going to go to the applicants, and the subject came from that correspondence template. And it looks like these don't have any. I'll show you some in just a second. We'll get into this, this functionality in another one of the batch screens. So those are the 3 different types of grant batches. And then let's jump into to grant batches and just take a look. So this is the most powerful batch type. These grant batches, these allow you to do workflow on the grants that are in the batch. It allows you to do correspondence from these batches, and it also allows you to copy them to a docket or copy them to a check run. So a lot of efficiency here. If you have a bunch of grants together that you want to, update your workflow on, maybe you've just done your staff review and you want to go ahead and select all these and say that the staff review step, or maybe the due diligence step, was completed today, then it would just update the workflow steps on each of these individual grant records. So a lot of powerful batch processing here for workflows. The real power here comes in batch correspondence. So let's do one of these. Actually, for this one, let's do documents, and this will be a grant award letter. Let's do a fund acknowledgement letter, and generate all these. So we've got 4. There were 4 grants in here. These are 4 fund acknowledgement letters. I can come into each one and edit if I want to. I can come into this this letter, and this is the text that was generated. Of course, your correspondence templates probably look a whole lot better than the sample one that I've set up here. But you can come in and modify this if you want to and save those changes. I can cancel this, or I can save any changes. If I save a change here, it's going to save it back onto the grant record. So at this point, it's worth noting that these 4 documents that are generated are now available on each of these individual grant records. If I go into Grant 1207 and take a look at its documents tile, it's going to have this letter sitting there that I can export at any time and print. But from here, if I choose to close, it's going to warn me that this is my chance to export all 4 of these together into one 4-page document if I wanted to print all of them at the same time. And I haven't done so yet. And so it's warning me, are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to say no and go ahead and download it. This will generate that 4-page PDF that's got all 4 of the grant letters on the PDF. You can do email from here as well. We'll get into, let's do that on a docket. So let's go to a docket. The dockets are here. I'm going to pull up, let's open this guy. Again, a docket is a batch that is used for board member approval. Some of you guys are using the board member portal for your docket approval. It can be set up for all of your board members to log in and have their own approval settings where they can approve individually. You can also set it up for approval by just a single board member. So this one's set up for review by a committee. It's been sent to the portal for approvals, and we can see the status of the submissions. So all 4 of the folks on this board approval committee have been given the opportunity to come in and do their approvals. But so far, Brandon's the only one who's done his job. The rest of these folks are slacking. So we can see what Brandon's submission details were, that he approved all 3 of these. Again, the real power here comes from the batch correspondence. So from here on this docket, if I wanted to send an email or do another document, I could do so just like I did before on that grant batch. So lots of opportunities here for batch correspondence and all the batch records. The other thing to point out here is that most of these batch screens also have a report function. And if you don't have this button on yours, it can mean a couple things. One, you may not have Power BI rolled out yet. There is a button here for the SSRS reports too. But this will essentially let me run a report that is specific to a docket. And this report will behind the scenes, we're going to pass in the docket ID as the parameter. This was docket number 5, and you can see we've passed in docket number 5 to run this report. So Power BI report integration directly with these if you need to run a report. Lots of flexibility there. And then, of course, on a check run, I'm sure you're all familiar with the financial processing steps in a check run. But if I open up one of these check runs, we can do correspondence from here as well. And you may not be familiar with that, but the correspondence here, let's do emails. Let's do an email correspondence for grant award letters. And these are not going to go to the fund holders. These are going to go to the recipients. So they'll go to recipients. And this subject was what came in from the template, grant award notification. I could override that if I wanted to. I'll say okay, and it's generated 3 emails. I had 5 payments on the check run, but it only gave me 3 emails, and that's because some of the recipients didn't have email addresses on their constituent records in Foundation Cloud Grants. And so you may, have the same experience where you go in to do batch correspondence for emails and you find that not all of your emails got generated. And that's because you may not have 2 addresses set up on each of these. So if I go in to edit one of these, I can edit the email similar to the way I could edit the letter. It's the same HTML editor. I can edit this here. I can, this is an HTML editor, it's WYSIWYG, so I could, change the font. I could make stuff bold if I wanted to, etc. I could change the verbiage. And then if I wanted to send to more than just J Smith, or if this was the wrong email address, these little 2 CC and VCC labels there are actually links that bring up this email processing screen. So all of the email addresses that we can find that are related to this grant record are going to be listed here in this grid. So this may be the recipient email address. This may be a fund holder email address. This may be some of the contacts that have email addresses that are associated with this particular constituent record, etc. So lots of different email addresses of folks we could send an email to. And you can just add, you can go to, or you could do a CC or a BCC. You can manually type in here as well. And you can just do semicolon separated email addresses if you want to send it to multiple people. And changing things there will change things here. You can make your changes and save them. And when you do, again, the email message has been generated and saved in the database. And if I went out to grant, 1320, I could see this email sitting on the documents tile. Now I haven't sent it yet. And again, if I try to close this without sending it, it's going to tell me I can't send all of them together. I could still go back to grant 1320 and go to that documents tile and send it manually if I wanted to. But this is telling me that the best way to do it is to send all 3 of these at the same time. So I don't want to close this screen. I want to go back and send it instead. So these are just test email addresses. I don't want to send right now with our SMTP settings. So a lot of power and a lot of flexibility here in the batch records. One more thing to mention is that in the, where are we? In the queries screen, you can do batch correspondence from queries as well. So if I go take a look at, let's see, let's find one that I can edit. I want one that is shared. Here we go. Here's a test grants query for correspondence. If I go run this query on the results tab here, we can see this is only, it's got 400 records. I've only got 100 loaded in here. So let's load all of them. Now I've got 405 grant records for whatever this query is for these grants. And I can do batch correspondence. If I wanted to send these 400 emails, I could just send 400 emails right from here for all these applicants. I could do their award letters. Or I could send letters to the fund holders for their acknowledgements. I could generate paper letters. It's also worth noting too that anytime you've got this batch correspondence function on a batch screen, you can run it multiple times. So if you wanted to do emails and letters, you could do that as well, no problem. Pretty straightforward and easy process. So Amy, I'm going to come up for air here. I've walked through, I think, what I wanted to talk through on these efficiencies, and I'm sure there have been some questions that have come in.
There have, and I know Brandon has been nice enough to answer most of these, but I thought they might be good to call out.
Okay.
Some of it was around why there's not a hold button for web applications.
Oh, great question.
Brandon did report that they are looking into that functionality.
Yeah. That's a great question. I like the idea. A lot of the processing functions that we've got, these bulk efficiencies that we've got for processing lots of records at the same time, or processing records on landing page, have essentially come from requirements that foundations have brought to us. And I'm trying to remember if I've heard that one before or not, and I don't know that I have, but I like the idea a lot. And so we can, yeah, we'll put that into our backlog, Brandon, of feature requests to triage and decide whether we want to add them. Great question.
There was another one. Catherine asked a question about reviewing online grant requests and how if you use the back button, you lose all your filters. So if you want to open them all up and see them, but you can't really do that without going back, clicking your back button. So Brandon was able to explain how that it does clear all the filters.
Filters, yeah.
But again, we'll take notice of that for an enhancement.
That's great feedback, and we appreciate that. I've heard that on a couple of other grids as well, that doing some processing may result in some of those filters getting cleared. So I guess we're going to need to look into how we persist those, when we persist those. There are times when we do want them to clear, and there are times when we're not going to want them to clear, where we're going to want to remember those things. So not quite as simple. And the tech, once we figure out what we want to do, the tech for that should be pretty straightforward. But I think Brandon and I and others will have some design work to do on figuring out when do we want to retain those filters and when do we want to clear them. So great question.
Yeah, that's really the highlights.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
You guys are an easy bunch. I hope this was helpful. Hope this was useful. And again, this is just the start. So these landing page functions, you come in here and you can do all these various steps. We're looking to add more. We've got some ideas on things that we can do in different places just to make this even more functional and more powerful. So as you get into using some of these efficiencies and these bulk processing features in Foundation Cloud, if you find that there are places where it could be more efficient, where another feature would be nice, or something's not working properly, by all means, let us know. Our goal here is to reduce clicks, to make this as efficient and as easy to understand and easy to use as possible. So by all means, let us know. We'd love to hear feedback and get some direction from you guys on where y'all want to see the product go. And so with that, thank you all for watching this. I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Brandon now and let Brandon discuss some of the recent changes here in the Foundation Cloud.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and thanks everyone for the great feedback. We'll definitely take note of those feature requests. There are a few things here that I want to tick through really quickly with you all. As you know, we released our Foundation Cloud Grants 2.2 within the last month, and just recently pushed a product release for our portal as well over the weekend. And with those releases came a few major enhancements that I just want to talk through, starting with what we have here, multi-factor authentication. So as part of our continuing efforts to ensure maximum security for all of our cloud products, we've implemented MFA. So it's been currently implemented for Foundation Cloud Grants and our portal, and very soon will be rolled out for our fund investment tool, formerly known as Endowment Manager as well. So what is MFA? MFA is an authentication method that requires a user to provide 2 or more verification factors to gain access to a software system. You may have seen this in other platforms you use, your bank, what have you. It's very standard, and we've chosen to integrate with Twilio. They have a very clean API for offering MFA, and we are offering 3 different verification methods that you can see there, starting with the mobile authenticator app. You can use Microsoft's Authenticator or Twilio's Authy for that. That's the most secure option. And then, of course, you can do SMS text and voice calls as well. A big question that we've got is, how do we enable MFA, or when will this be auto-enabled? So I'd like to address that as well. Currently, we have stated that on May 15th, MFA will be auto-enabled for all Impact Cloud clients. So with that, when it is enabled, the users, the end users or donors, yourselves using Foundation Cloud grants from that point forward will then have 30 days to set up your preferred verification method. And you can see it there in that little screenshot on the right. After that point, after that window, it will be required to log in. So just want to make that clear. If you have more questions or would like to see more details about this, we do have a knowledge base article that basically fleshes this out in a lot more detail as well. So that's MFA. Moving along here, we can go to the next slide, Amy. Yes, this is also a very exciting change that we rolled out over the weekend to our community portal. I want to start just by saying, we've listened to a lot of feedback from everyone, and we are deeply committed to improving the donor experience this year. And a lot of this can be accomplished, of course, with new features and enhancements, and we'll continue to do that. But we think that redesigning some of the existing key workflows to be more intuitive and user-friendly will go a long way as well. So our first step in that process has been our grant and transfer request redesign here. Again, this was released over the weekend, and we have a lot of supporting documentation that details what's been changed, some screenshots. But at a high level, as we look at this, we've essentially taken the grant request screen from 5 steps down to 3 and tried to find ways to reduce clicks as much as possible. So fewer modals, fewer tabs. We've also, improved the page validation, right? So if you try to move on to a next step and something isn't right, it calls out exactly what needs to be updated. And we've provided a nice little progress bar there at the top that is a way to guide your donors through that journey of submitting a grant request. So all cosmetic changes here, I want to point that out as well. But the fields are the same, everything is the same, but we've laid it out in a way that we hope feels more user-friendly. So does my foundation need to make changes? You might, depending on some of the instructions that you've set up. When we rolled this out, we were very careful to preserve all of the existing labels, titles, and instructions that you guys have specifically configured. And so in those instructions, if you are calling out, specific tabs or buttons that have been moved on the page or even removed, then you might want to update that. And we have a knowledge base article that points you exactly where to go to make those changes. But other than that, there really isn't too much more from a functionality standpoint that has changed. Okay, let's keep moving along. I have 2 more to talk about here. SendGrid. So this is another major improvement that we've made to our email delivery service. In the past, clients have had to rely on their own SMTP servers to send out all the great batch correspondence that Jeff just went through, along with automated emails, both in the portal and in Foundation Cloud. And so we've partnered with Twilio to integrate with SendGrid. So again, SendGrid is a leading provider of email delivery services. And what it will do, if you guys are interested in this, is essentially use their API to send out those emails, as opposed to relying on your own SMTP server. We have a wonderful help article that has a full set of instructions on how to get this configured. You can open up a support ticket with Impact to help get you started, and we'll share that link with you all. Moving along here. Last but not least, we have Fiserv. So what is Fiserv? Again, we are really committed to improving the donor experience and saving you guys as much time and cost as possible. So we partnered with Fiserv to offer a different payment processor that has a very competitive rate and a very clean platform for managing canceled transactions, refunds, voiding payments, things like that. Like it says there, Fiserv is one of the largest, most trusted names in this space, and we've integrated it with our community portal to support ACH and credit card donations. Works very similar to Blackbaud Merchant Services, if that's what you guys are using currently. You know, the donation form is very much the same. The gift record that's created and pushed to the CRM is all exactly the same. So we try to build this in a thoughtful way that would be create as little disruption as possible, if I can put it that way. So down there it says, how do we enable Fiserv? This is a slow rollout, and we would just kindly ask that you reach out to our team here at Impact if you're interested, and we'll work with you on the next steps and speak in a bit more detail on our partnership with Fiserv and how they'll onboard you to the CardPoint platform and all of that. That is it from my end. I know that was a lot of information that I threw at you guys, but those were 4 major enhancements that were rolled out. I want to make sure everyone is aware that those are now available.
Great. Thank you, Brandon and Jeff. Are there any further questions anyone has on the new products that Brandon presented? Feel free to enter them in the Q&A. Otherwise, our contact information is all listed on the screen. We will send out this presentation so that you have the links and so that you can get further information on these product enhancements. But we do have a couple minutes if you have more questions. All right, no questions. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Have a great day, all.